first, a little bit about myself. My name is Todd Laudino. I am a senior program manager in the Recognition and Engagement Department. So I work with National Honor Society Scholarship. I work with a National Junior Honor Society Award as well, called the Outstanding Achievement Award. I work with our Principal of the Year program, and I work with our Assistant Principal of the Year program, as well as our National Council of Excellence, which is for student councils or student government associations. So the parent organization of National Honor Society is called the National Association of Secondary School Principals, NASSP. And so we represent school principals as well as the NHS chapters. We're a nonprofit. We are across the entire country as well as international. So we serve a lot of schools. We make sure that we can advocate for what you all need in your schools to feel safe, to feel represented, to make sure that you have adequate funding. You think it involves education, and we're probably involved in it. So that's the organization that you're supporting as a member of National Honor Society, and that's the organization that is now supporting you back if you're applying for the NHS Scholarship. Let me know if you have any questions about NASSP, but otherwise I'm going to roll on to a little bit about the award. We'll jump right in. A lot of this information is available on our website. I'll post a link in the chat. But if you go to nhs.us/scholarship, that's a short link that will get you there real quick. Let me just post that to everyone. Okay, and that's in the chat in case you need it. Hopefully you've already been there if you made your way onto the webinar. There was a link to the webinar from there. There's also a link to information about the award timeline, the eligibility, FAQs, lots of stuff that we're going to go through tonight and more. So first off, a little bit about the history of the scholarship. It's been going on since 1946, so this scholarship is not new by any means. Now, giving out $2 million is rather new, and that's only been going on for the past 3 or 4 years. We had been giving out something in the realm of 250, then 500,000, then $1 million. And, you know, college costs have gone up exponentially, and so the scholarship needs have gone up exponentially as well. So with us giving away $2 million this year, that is going to be to 600 different scholarship awards. Now, the way those are broken down is available online. If you look in the FAQ section, I believe is where it is. There's 575 semifinalists that get $3,200, and there are 25 others who are finalists that get $5,625. Now, they're also invited to an event in Washington, D.C. in April of next year, and one of them gets selected to be the national winner and gets about 20,000. So it's a little bit bigger of an award. There's also 4 special awards that finalists can receive called our Pillar Awards, which are around the 4 pillars of NHS, which hopefully everybody here knows: scholarship, service, leadership, and character. And those are an additional 5,000 on top of the $5,600 award. So the distribution is broken down online, though, if you want to look at the particulars. But overall, what you probably want to know is we're giving away 600 awards this year, $2 million total. So top 25, getting a trip to DC is something we started last year, and we are really, really looking forward to doing again this year. It's something that's a really special experience. There's been a lot on our Instagram account, which is NHS and NJHS Instagram account, from some of our previous winners who have been posting lots of really wonderful things to hype people up for this year. So please make sure you follow us on social media if you can, NHS and NJHS. And for the timeline for this award, we've been open already for, what are we up to now, 10 days? Yeah, 10 days. So we opened on September 19th this year. That's earlier than in previous years. Previous years, we opened on October 1st. One, to give you a little bit of extra time to get this done, because I know what you all are going through right now. We are in the middle of applications. If you've been applying for any early decisions, you probably already got those applications in. Regular decisions, you're probably working on those applications. You probably have several other scholarships that you're applying for. And at the same time, you're probably still taking very rigorous coursework. So I get how busy you are. And I try to respect that by making sure that you have enough time with a 10-week span for the application being open. So from September 19th until November 30th at 11 p.m. Eastern. So if you are planning to apply, make sure you mark that time. Make sure if you are in a different time zone that you do a conversion. It is in Eastern time. And I'm going to be there up until the last minute to take those last minute questions that come into the inbox that you all have to make sure that we get your applications in by that deadline. But If you want to do yourself a favor and me a favor, I ask kindly, try to get it done a little bit earlier than that. The sooner the better, because there are some components of the application that involve other people, which we'll get to momentarily. Now, for those of you, once you finish your application, we're going to hit that point, which is no fun, which is waiting for a decision. You're going to be waiting for college decisions. You're going to be waiting for scholarship decisions. So December, January, February, you know, that's time to hibernate, hunker down, do what you need to do in your schools. But the scholarship, we will be very carefully reading and reviewing the scholarship during that time period. We have a nationally representative scholarship selection committee. We have application raters who very much care about what you have to say in your applications. They're mostly all from colleges and universities around the US. So they are very experienced at reading applications much faster than I am. So just please make sure that you get your applications in so that I can make sure I have enough of those readers and I know what kind of volume we've got coming in. Okay, next up, let's talk about the basic eligibility. Hopefully, if you're here, you've got an idea that you are probably eligible. But first off, you need to be a senior this year. You need to be a National Honor Society. And senior, you should be expecting to graduate during the current academic year, meaning 22-23. You probably, at a traditional school, are going to have your graduation in May or June of 2023. But if you are on some other plan where maybe you're graduating in, early, you're graduating in January, December, something like that, that's okay as well. As long as you're considered a senior by your school this academic year, and you are planning to attend college in the fall of 2023. And before you ask, I'll also note that if you're planning or thinking about a gap year right now, or you just want to make sure that your options are open so that, let's say, you don't get into your #1 school and you want to take a year off and reapply, that's okay. You can apply for this scholarship, you can get the award, we'll hold on to the money until you're ready. The one stipulation you do have is that you need to use it within 4 years. But if for some reason it's not going to be applied to a fall 2023 tuition, maybe you're going to a community college and you don't need the funds right away, that's okay. We can hold them until you go over to that 4-year college where you would like to apply the funds. So please note that. Now, as an NHS member, there's a couple things that you need to do before you're eligible. We said senior. You also need to be in good standing with your chapter. Being in good standing means that you're doing whatever you signed up for when you signed on to be an NHS member at your school. And that can vary a little bit with chapter to chapter. So I can't give you a carte blanche answer for what is the membership obligations at your school. It might be that you need to attend, a certain percentage of your meetings. It might be that you needed to get a certain number of service hours completed by a certain time. If you are behind on any of those membership obligations, there is a part of the application process where we will ask your advisor to confirm that you were in good standing. If you are not in good standing and the advisor marks no to that question, that could be seriously detrimental to your application. So I would say you always want to check in, make sure that you're meeting all of the things that you promised you would do as part of NHS in your school ahead of applying. Additionally, you're going to need to create an NHS account. I'm going to walk through the process for NHS accounts and verification a little bit later in here, so I won't dig in on that yet. And the last couple notes, the school must have an active chapter of NHS. That's a requirement that they need to be affiliated with our national office in order to be operating, but it's also obviously then a requirement that you need that in order to apply. When you get to the actual application, it's going to check for a few things. It's going to say, is the student verified as being a member? Is this student from an active chapter? And then there's a third one that's a question that you have to respond to that is going to say, are you a senior planning to graduate this year? And it asks you to indicate your graduation date as well. Okay. Oh, and there's no limit to the number of applicants per chapter, by the way. So if you don't feel too selfish about it, make sure you share this with your friends that are in NHS as well, and give them a chance as well at getting an award. Okay, for the award distribution, and I'm going to go through this slide and then we're going to take a little pause and see if you have any questions yet. Okay, so feel free to type them in the Q&A box. I see there's a few already. So for the award distribution, just to kind of get these questions out of the way ahead of time, the award is a one-time award. Okay, so it's not renewable, which means you can get this award, let's say in your freshman year, you cannot renew it in your sophomore or junior or senior year. However, there's often a time that we are sensitive to during your freshman year where you might get more scholarship funds than you can use in a given year, right? And the school might come back to you and say, well, you've got this $3,200 award from NHS, and we can't actually apply it to your tuition right now because we've awarded you enough money already. And that's a thing that happens. It's a very, very complicated process, but we're going to work with you through that. So if a school says that, then we will give you the option of saying, let's hang on to those funds for another year and let's get them to you during your sophomore year. We want to make sure that you get the most use of these funds and they're not going to waste because you've been awarded too much aid. That's a good problem to have, and we can work with you on it. Now, the awards themselves, we do not write checks to individuals. There's a lot of reasons behind this, but to give you the short answer, if you write a check to an individual, it becomes taxable income that your family would have to report. We would also have to give you paperwork in order to report that every year. Instead, we pay this directly to the colleges or universities that you're attending. So we send it to those schools with your name, with your student ID number, and with how the award should be distributed. Generally, the awards get distributed for the entirety of the school year, so that they get used for fall and spring semester. There are, again, options sometimes where you say, well, I have enough aid in fall semester only, and can you please apply this to spring of the next year? No problem. We can do that for you. You just have to let us know before we send the check. They need to be used for qualified educational expenses. This is one of those IRS terms, but just to define it very simply, this means it's for your basic cost of attendance, including your tuition, your books, your course-related fees. It is not going to cover your meal plan. It is not going to cover your housing. It's not going to cover anything any additional expenses outside of from the college, indirect expenses such as, you need to take a bus to get to school, or you need to buy a new car because you can't commute to your campus. It doesn't cover anything like that. It's going to have to go through the school. The funds can be applied to certain things at the bookstore. Obviously, books are included. But if you need a laptop, for example, as a required item for a course, then it's going to count as a qualified education expense. This can get a little bit into the weeds, but if you have questions about this later, feel free to let me know. And if you're awarded, again, we will work with you to make sure we set you up as best possible. Okay. Next thing, the students are responsible for letting the colleges know that they have received a scholarship. So if in March 2023, we give you a scholarship and you do not report it to your school, when they get that check from us, which we disperse in July or August of 2023, they might come back and say, we can't accept this because this student has received too much aid already, and they're going to lose aid from one source or another because they've been over awarded. It's your responsibility as the student to go and communicate this information to your financial aid office. They need to know where your money is coming from, because if they don't know what to expect, then they cannot adequately work with you to make sure that your financial aid package is serving you and your family as best possible. Take a little break for questions. I'm going to see what we've got going on in the Q&A box. Ignacia, I saw that you posted in the chat, which I just happened to catch. It varies each year. It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 10 to 15, 18 even thousand. It really, really depends a lot year to year. We're seeing good traffic to the application so far. So we'll see how this year turns out. Okay, let's going back and looking at these questions. Okay, one person asked if it was a renewable award, and I mentioned already, but no, it is not a renewable award. It is one time. Another question is about the precise date of graduation, because we asked for your graduation date. Give me an approximate if they have not given you an exact date yet. That's completely okay. The main thing that you need to do is when you create an account, they're going to ask your graduation year, and you're going to need to put that as 2023, because if you're not graduating in 2023, you might not be getting communications from us that are letting you know updates, because we specifically communicate to the class of 2023 to make sure that seniors are informed about what's going on with the scholarship. All right, we've got, do I have to be an NHS member because I have been receiving letters requesting me to pay for membership? I thought I was an NHS when I applied for it at my school. Elena, I'll just tell you, without getting into specific details, there are other organizations that sound similar to National Honor Society that are not National Honor Society. And they often send mailings directly to students and their families requesting that they pay a fee to join their honor society. They may have a name that sounds similar to our own. They are not National Honor Society. National Honor Society is through a school-based membership only. The only way to be a member of National Honor Society is that your school, it has an affiliation with us, with our office, and then you are selected to be a member at your school and you are inducted at your school. If there is a fee required, there might be a fee required that your advisor lets you know about, such as to get certain materials like a graduation stole or just to pay a chapter dues. If this is coming from a different source that is not someone at your school that you do not recognize, then it is not affiliated with NHS. We get that question a lot. It confuses a lot of people, I understand. Okay, Dominic, you asked how many events should NHS groups strive for? Well, it's difficult to say. The number of events itself is a tricky question because there are more options in certain areas of the country or certain communities for service. So it's not often about the number, it's often about the depth, the impact, what you get out of an event, rather than a sheer volume. I hope that's helpful. All right, next question. Fisher, we've got, how do we know who our NHS chapter advisor is and how do we get verified by them? Okay, if you do not, your NHS advisor is also the same as your NHS sponsor. If that person has been in question at your school, maybe the previous advisor left and you're not sure who the current one is as the faculty advisor, please email us at nhs@nhs.us, or you can email scholarship@nhs.us, and either myself or one of my colleagues will look up who your advisor is for you and make sure that you're aware. The advisor is the one that needs to verify your account, and I'll go through the verification process a little bit later in the presentation, okay? I asked if the session would be recorded. Yes, the session is being recorded. Thank you. I usually lead with that and I forgot to today. So Mia, yes, it will be recorded and we will send out a link to the recording tomorrow, about 24 hours after the live broadcast finishes. Now, if there's someone that is looking to revisit some of this content sooner than later, just to be honest, about an hour after the live broadcast finishes, you can click on the join link that you clicked on to get here today, and it will automatically redirect you to the recording. That's how we have it set up in our system. So you can actually watch this again pretty much 10 minutes after I hit the stop button. How are the top 25 people picked from Ava? That's a good question. So I'm going to go into a section later called ideal applicants. And if you don't mind, I'm going to hold on to your question until then, but I promise it will be answered. So I'm going to mark that as complete for now. Brooklyn, is there an application fee? Nope, there's no application fee. Your school just has to have an active membership for us. Ayana, can these funds be placed in a 529 plan? No, they cannot, because these funds are not paid directly to individuals. They are paid to the school. So they, since they're given directly to the school, we don't have that option in this scenario. Amy asked, can you use the money at a community college? Yes, you certainly can. I mentioned an example of potentially deferring because you were going to community college and maybe you didn't need the funds. But if you're going to the community college and you can make use of these funds, certainly that's an option. And that can be, there's no requirement for you to be at a four-year school in order to earn the scholarship. Awards for the 4 pillars, how do I apply for those? Okay, and those are attached to the scholarship. For those of you who asked about the pillar awards that I mentioned, there's like a $5,000 extra award. those awards are only available to the top 25 finalists. So we get these top 25, and then we select 4 of them that are going to receive a pillar award based off something in their application that stands out related to scholarship, service, leadership, and character. And those 4 each will get an extra $5,000. And then 1 person out of the finalist group also gets the national winner title. So it's basically only going to be eligibility for folks that are in that top 25 already. Okay, there was a question. Okay, later viewing, yes. Carla asked where you can apply. I had put a link in the chat earlier, and I'll put it in again in just a moment about where to apply, but it is, if you visit nhs.us/scholarship, there's an apply now button in the middle of the page. There's also some icons there about how to create an account. So you need to create an account first in order to apply. And I will go through that process in just a couple minutes. Shayla asked, when's the deadline to apply? It's November 30th at 11 p.m. Eastern. We also have that same website I just mentioned. It has the deadlines up on it. And once you log into the scholarship application, it will let you know how many days you have left. Jade, you asked for the main qualities in candidates. I promise I'm going to get to that one later. Christine asked if there's a cost. No cost. Do you have to know for sure what college? From Pam. No, not off the bat. We will, when we award the scholarship, we're going to send a form to anyone that receives it and say, what school are you going to? If you know 100% that is where you've already signed that you're going to and already decided to enroll. If you don't know that, then we hold off and we send it once we know definitively where you were going. I do not want to get to a circumstance where we send money to a college that you then have, decide to not actually commit to. So we try to avoid that. Okay. Autumn said, you've got a new chapter. So we've got an NHS advisor. Congrats on your new chapter. Yes, your seniors are eligible because they'll be inducted before the due date. Here's where I would recommend, looking at when their induction date is, and then making sure that they have enough time to still complete the scholarship application after that point. If you would like to get a head start, and this is at your discretion as the advisor, you could ask them to go online and create accounts with us at nhs.us, and you could verify their accounts pretty much as soon as they get inducted. But at least they have the accounts sitting there waiting, and then you'll be able to go online, go to your online roster and verify them at that point. I'm not going to send the application link directly in the chat, but again, if you go to that website I mentioned, which I'll type in the chat, there's an apply now button and you can get to that. How many times can you win and how many times can you apply? It's one application because it's for seniors only. So you only get one shot at it. And there's only one application that goes through. Okay, another question about committing to school. We already said, yep, you can wait on that. Okay, if you were selected as a finalist and could not make it to Washington, D.C. due to other scholarship interviews, would that affect your chances of winning? No, we don't ask you about that date in particular when you apply for the scholarship. There is nothing that says, that where you have to indicate, I agree to showing up on this day. We will work with you. It will not impact your chances of winning. We had some folks that came to the event last year that, they had a conflicting event that was at Yale that I think it started on the Monday evening, and they participated in our programming on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and then they jumped on a train and they only missed they missed a little bit. They missed some fun, but they got on a train and they got up to that event by 10 p.m. that night so that they could participate in that because it was also a requirement. I'm sensitive to how many things become required of your weekends, and we're not going to hold that against you. Okay, is the meeting being recorded? Yes. And can you use the money at community college? Let's see that again. Yes is the answer. Do you have to hold a position at your school, president, secretary, etc., to be eligible? Nope. You just need to be in NHS and you need to be a senior. No problem. Amani asked, can awards only be to US universities? Yes. So there is a website where I could actually direct you to if you are curious about a specific university, but overall it's going to be US universities, but that is also going to include university or US territory universities. So basically, if the organization or the college or university is eligible to receive funding through the Department of Education and the US government, then yes, it is eligible to receive this scholarship. So, I had a question recently about a university in Guam, and yes, the University of Guam is on that list and is eligible. But we wouldn't be able to send the award to a university in Europe unless, there's a big unless this is a campus that is affiliated with a major US university. For example, you're going to NYU, and you talk to them and say, I would like to spend my first year, second year, whatever it is, studying in a different location. We could talk to them about whether or not their financial rules and guidelines allow us to do that or not. There's some special circumstances that we would have to, verify with you, parent, student, and the financial aid office. Okay, I'm going to take a break from questions right now. I've still got another 18 in here. I'm trying to catch up to the best of my ability. And I see some more in the chat, and I'll get to those as soon as I can. But I'm going to go through and try to answer some other questions proactively. All right. Okay. Once you go to the website, which I will pop it into the chat one more time for everyone, nhs.us/scholarship, then it's going to show you a little graphic that says there's 3 steps you need to do. So we're talking about step 1 here, which is you need to create an account. So if you go to nhs.us and you select the create an account button, that'll take you there. If you're already on the nhs.us/scholarship page and you click on that, that image that I mentioned with the step 1, step 2, step 3, it's going to take you right to the account creation page as well. So when you're on this account creation page, it's going to ask you just for a few pieces of information in order for you to get up and running. First, it's going to ask for your email address. It's going to make sure that you can hit a button to check to make sure you haven't already created an account. And then it's going to take you to the next page. You're going to set a password as well. And on the next page, you're then going to be asked for your name, your phone number, as well as, that might be it on that page. And then the page after that, though, it's going to ask you for your graduation year, your anticipated high school graduation year, which you can see faintly an image in the background that I have here, where 2023 is listed as the graduation year, which is what you're going to want, obviously. And then you're going to have to link up to a school. You're going to see 2 options when you see find your school. It's going to say either enter school ID number, or it's going to say search for your school. So most students are going to use the search for your school option. I have an example here. I used my old alma mater in New Jersey, Piscataway High School. And so I typed in Piscataway High School as my school name. I typed in New Jersey as my state. State is a required field here, and school name is a required field. And then one result popped up. There's a little checkbox next to it. It's hard to see in this image and in the screenshot, unfortunately. But you check that, and then that populates as the school that's on record for you. If you can't find your school right away, here's a tip. I recommend just trying the first word in your school name. For example, if I just put Piscataway instead of high school and I just put Piscataway, I'm more likely to get more results to make sure I get it. I say this because the way that our name is recorded in our system may not be exactly the same as you know it. And I mention that because sometimes you have a school that technically has, it might be Piscataway Senior High School or Piscataway Junior High School, things like that. Or for example, you might have, St. Matthews, and it might be spelled out the word Saint, or it might be ST. And so you want to try a couple different combinations if you can't find your school right away. If you know you have NHS, this should be able to get you to your result. And if not, you can email our team at NHS at nhs.us, and they can help you out in finding your school. The second option is to enter a school ID number. Again, it's faint in this photo, but you can see this school's number is 3027, it looks like. Your advisor, or if you are the advisor online tonight, then you can actually get your school ID number by logging into the advisor account at nhs.us, clicking on the My Account area, and then you will see a school ID number. If you give your students that school ID number, they can just fill that in here and it will automatically make sure that they're attached to the correct school. This part is really, really important because if you attach yourself to the wrong school, then your advisor is not going to get an email that says, John tried to create an account. Can you verify that John's an NHS member? So make sure you're attached to the right school. There is a button that says, I can't find my school, but I'll just be honest with you. I'd rather have you not need to click on that, because if you click on that, you're not going to get linked to any school in particular. And we need you to get linked to a school. Otherwise, no one's going to be able to verify your membership and you're not going to be able to apply. And ultimately, you're going to need to contact us for troubleshooting at that point. Okay, step 2 is getting verified. This is the part where the NHS advisor comes in. It is actually a pretty simple process once you get familiar with it for our advisors that are online today. But again, it's going to be going to our website, logging in using your existing credentials, and then clicking on the My Account button. When you're in the My Account button, you'll see your name, you'll see your school's name, you'll see the school ID, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some blue buttons. One will have your school's name. This is also the area where you can go to pay annual affiliation fees and things like that. It's also the area where you can see any open invoices you have from orders for NHS products for your school. But on the right side, you'll see a roster button in blue. When you click on the roster, it will open up and you'll see 5 different tabs. You can actually, as the advisor, view who is attached to your school's record. So you can see administrators, your principals, assistant principals, whoever happens to have an account with us. You can see a list of advisors, including your co-advisors, and you can see a list of unverified students, and then you can see a list of students who have been verified. So what you'll want to do if there are students pending verification, you just click on the unverified tab, and you'll see a list of everyone that is waiting for you to verify them. And all you have to do is click on the checkbox next to their name. Again, it's a little bit faint in this image here, but we've got my name here, and there's actually a checkbox right next to it to the left. You click on that, and then this verify button in green is going to light up a little bit brighter. You click on that, it'll pull up a confirmation that says, hey, are you sure you want to verify? And it will ask you about everyone that you've selected, because you could actually just do a select all here, and you could grab 10 people at once. You could verify your entire chapter and get everyone set up for accounts. And I actually do recommend that when chapters induct, go ahead and tell your students to sign up for the accounts now. And that way, when they do hit their senior year, I'll say, okay, I'm going to look next year at who's the class of 2024. Let me send them an email that says the NHS Scholarship is open today. And it also will let them know about things like college readiness webinars and other opportunities for them that are free to them through National Honor Society. Now, once you verify the students, so the students know this, you get an email that says you have been verified by your advisor. You now have access to, and it lists a few things. The first thing it lists is the NHS Scholarship. So if you're waiting on that verification, wait till you get that email, then click on that link, and then click on the Apply Now button and get into the application. I'll just note, for anyone that creates an account, if you try to log into the scholarship before you are verified, you're going to hit a barrier on the profile that says, is this student's account verified? And it's going to give you the answer no, and you cannot change that answer. That is part of your, it's part of a single sign-on process. It is pulling from, what your advisor's response has been. So if you try to log in, you're going to hit that error, and then you're going to have to wait until your advisor verifies you. At that point, you're going to need to go up to the top of the application. There's a gear icon that's right below the banner on that application form, and you're going to have to hit log out completely. And then you're going to need to enter your username and password again to log back in. That will refresh your profile data, and that will now show, yes, that student is verified. So if you want to do yourself a favor, and I've got warnings all over the page and help instructions all over the page, do yourself a favor, wait until you get the email that says you were verified. All right. Also, just a note for the NHS advisors, you will get 1 email per day maximum on any day where students create accounts. So if someone creates an account at 7 a.m., someone else at 10 a.m., and someone else at 1 p.m., you're going to get 1 email. It usually goes out in the evening, I believe. So maybe at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., an email is going to go through to your NHS advisor email, and it's going to say students A, B, and C created accounts with us today. Here's how you go in and verify them. And it gives you those instructions that I just explained, and it will recap those instructions for you. Now, the only thing to know is that if that student or multiple students come to you and say, hey, I created an account, you might not be able to go online instantaneously in the middle of the school day and verify them, but you also do not need to wait until that second email arrives from us that says you've got students waiting. Pretty much, if the student sitting next to you creates an account, you can log into your account a minute later and hit verify on their account if you know how to do that. So it's about kind of building that process and knowing where to go. I'm also always available. You can always email me if you have questions about that process. Or if you're a student and you're having trouble getting verified, you don't know who your advisor is, or some other issue, I don't want that to be the hang up. If you know you're an NHS, I don't want that to prevent you from applying. So reach out to me and we'll make sure that we check in with your advisor to see if we can get you verified sooner than later. All right. Last step, and this one is the big step, obviously. Once you've got the account, you're going to then go and work on your application. So from the website that I linked in the chat, you'll be able to click on the Apply Now button. You're going to log in using your verified NHS student account. I mentioned even here the tip of if you tried to log in and it's not working, make sure you log out and then log back in again so it updates your profile data. You're going to go down the profile and you'll see on the right-hand side of this slide, I've got these questions. So first it asks, is the schools chapter active? Yes or no? If the answer is no, you need to go and speak with your advisor or principal. If you've got a chapter at your school, they should be active in order for you to be eligible. The next question is, has the advisor verified your membership? Again, we just talked about that in depth, but there's even a reminder here about that logging out piece if you need to log out and refresh your profile data. And then those are both automatically filled in, as well as your school profile data. So what school, what city and state your school are in, those are all filled in automatically up above based off the account that you signed up for. The only questions you have to answer on this page are these bottom two, which are confirming that you are a high school senior, you're expecting to receive a diploma during the current academic year, you're a member in good standing, and we also link back to those eligibility requirements at nhs.us/scholarship here. You need to answer yes to this, because if you're not these things, then you're not eligible. So once you hit yes on all of these, you'll also be asked to enter your graduation date. Again, it's okay if you don't have the exact date yet. Put in as close as you can get to it. This helps us around the end of the year. We like to make sure that we can reach you before you graduate, because sometimes students will use the school-based email address, and I want to make sure that if I need to get in contact with you, I do that before you're out of the building. Okay, that's just the profile part. Now for the actual application part, that is going to be a three-part series, basically. The first part is the primary application. That's where you're answering questions about what are your service activities, what are your leadership roles, and you're going to answer a question about what the 4 pillars of National Honor Society mean to you and how they've impacted you. This is the part that is really your chance as the student to shine in the application and to show your personality. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide where we talk about the ideal candidate. But let me quickly mention the other 2 areas of the application that are equally as important. These are parts the student needs to fill out: the advisor certification request and the recommendation request. So for the advisor certification request, you're just going to go in, you're going to type your advisor's name and email address, and you could include a note. It might say, Miss Martin, I'm applying for the NHS Scholarship. I'm hoping that you can, say something nice about me based off, my role here and how I've helped our chapter, over the last couple years, whatever you want to put. That email will then automatically send to your advisor, to the email address that you provided for your advisor. The advisor is going to get an email that explains what they need to do, and it's going to give a link for them. The advisor is then asked to just answer a few questions about you. The certification, think of it as a very short recommendation. Because many students at a chapter may be applying, we don't want any advisor to have to answer this for 10, 15, 20 questions. 20 students, excuse me, because that's a lot of recommendations. So instead we're asking, does the student meet the obligations of your chapter? What kind of student is this at your school? And we give them an opportunity to answer some basic questions about you. And then there's one open-ended response question as well. This is very important. So if you're not especially close to your advisor, or especially active in your NHS chapter, I would suggest that you talk to your advisor before you put out this request. I think it's important that they have some kind of existing relationship and knowledge of what you've done in your school and community before they fill this out, because you want them to be able to, with confidence, have wonderful things to say about you, because we, again, do very much read these and consider them strongly. The other part is the recommendation request. The recommendation request is a different adult that is not your NHS advisor and is not a family member. This could be someone at your school, could be another teacher. It could also be someone at for example, a church, or at a community center, or at a hospital where you've been volunteering, or a senior citizen center where you've been volunteering. Someone, though, that you have some experience with, that knows you well enough, that could speak to how the 4 pillars, are demonstrated in your behavior. So I would, again, make sure that you're talking to this person and saying, here's what they're looking for. They're looking for, how do I demonstrate scholarship, service, leadership, and character? Talk to that person before you put them in as a recommendation request. Then, as the student, it's your responsibility for both the advisor and the recommender to go make sure that person knows that you put in the request, confirm that they received the email with the link to complete, and then confirm that they're able to get it done before the deadline, or to match whatever deadline you've set for yourself. So if you want to get your application done by October 15th, make sure you're having a conversation with that person and say, are you able to get this done by October 15th? Because my fall gets really busy, and it would be very helpful for me if you could get this done in the next 3 weeks. So, because as a student, you cannot submit your full application until these components are done. You need to have all 3 sections done, which means you've completed the primary application, the advisor has filled in the form that we've asked them to fill for a certification, and the recommender has filled in the recommendation form. Once those 3 components are done, then the submit button will light up in green on the application, and you'll have to log back in and click submit. So that's just a nice reminder that if you start your application, you fill out that whole primary part yourself, you fill in the request 1, request 2. When those that advisor and recommender fill out those sections, it's also going to email you and say, Mr. Jones has done, this recommendation for you. And then there's also a reminder in there that says you need to log back into the platform now. So make sure you've kept your username and password somewhere. You need to log back into the platform, and you need to submit your application. Here's the good news also, is that there are going to be reminders coming out from the platform constantly. I'm going to try not to bombard you too much, but I want to let you know that we want you to complete the application, right? So we're going to be sending out periodic reminders to everyone involved. But as the student applicant, you also have the option to go back in and, for example, let's say you put in the advisor recommendation 2 weeks ago, you can actually hit a little button that says send reminder, and it will send a reminder to that person. I would encourage you to use that if you'd like, but I think it's really no substitute for having a direct conversation with that person and making sure that they're able to do what you need them to do. Please, please, please. You need to give people enough time. So I recommend doing these recommendation and advisor certification requests as soon as you log into the platform, and then have those conversations with the folks. You do not want to give your advisor 12 hours to try to get this done, because if that advisor can't get this done in 12 hours for you, and you're not able to submit your application, and that advisor emails me the next day, and I've already started running our scoring algorithm and started assigning the applications to readers, I can't do anything. I can't reopen the application because the submission came in too late. The deadline is a hard deadline here because there's a series of events that we have to stick to. So please make sure that you're giving your recommender and advisor ample time, and make sure that they've committed and say, I can get this done for you. And if they tell you they can't get it done, then you need to look into what is an alternative recommender, or if you have more than one advisor for your chapter, can the other advisor do it? Can the co-advisor do it? And that's okay as well. Okay, quickly, I'm going to talk about ideal candidate, and then I'm going to pop back in because we've got a ton of questions rolling in here. Okay. So ideal candidate, this is how you're going to make your application as strong as possible, right? It's about the 4 pillars. We are looking, that is the core of National Honor Society. We are looking for demonstration of those 4 pillars. So the first one, bullet point here, demonstrate a service mindset by seeking out and voluntarily fulfilling the needs of others, right? So here, I don't want to just know that you signed up for, a car wash and raised funds for your school and spent 3 hours doing it, right? A lot of people do something like that. A lot of people contribute to a bake sale. A lot of people donate socks. A lot of people donate blood. A lot of people have canned food drives. What about your experience is unique and special? What made that experience stand out for you? What made it special for you? We need to get your personality in this. I need to understand, why did you care about the thing that you cared about? What impact did it have on you? And what impact did you have on the people that you were serving? How did you identify the needs of the population that you're serving? So that is not to say that there is absolutely nothing wrong with if you have a group service project contributing to it, okay? I'm all for it. Any way that you can commit a service and complete service, please, it's such a wonderful thing you can be doing. But we want to know why, because if I don't know why you're doing what you're doing, and if your answer is only because I'm required to do 25 hours or 50 hours or 100 hours, that's not what's going to get someone selected to win the scholarship, right? But if you show me a deep passion for service and a commitment to helping others through your application, that means more than entering 16 activities, right? Instead, explain to me why you're entering what you are entering. A lot of the other items here are going to stand out in the exact same way. So commitment to learning, growing, and making the most out of educational opportunities. This is talking about your scholarship. So there's a question in the application that's going to ask you about your GPA. It's going to ask you about your advanced coursework. How many AP classes are you taking? How many IB classes? How many honors classes? How many dual enrollment classes? That is great, and those numbers objectively can be impressive, but we recognize that not every school has the same number of advanced courses available, just depending on the school size, location, staffing. There's lots of considerations here. And so here's the thing. I want to know, what are you getting out of the coursework that you do have that's available to you? And so maybe this is something that you're including in that essay question, where you're saying, here's why I did what I did, or here's the journey I've been through to get to where I am. I want to see that, and our application readers want to see that. Next one, take ownership and responsibility as a leader in title or in action. I'm going to go back to someone that earlier asked and said, do you need to be the president, secretary, etc.? Nope, you don't. But you need to have led in some way, shape, or form. Now, leadership doesn't always look like the president. Sometimes it's the person that's pulling people together to, come up with a solution for a problem, or it's someone that is leading a committee on a specific activity or service project. Now, again, nothing wrong at all with being a participant, but with our scholarship, we are in particular looking for people that can demonstrate some of those leadership qualities. So maybe that is, you're good at organizing people, you are good at conflict resolution, you are good at team building and networking, and you're good at pulling people in and involving them in your activities and your ideas. You're good at rallying people behind a cause. These are all things that really stand out as great leadership qualities. There's many others that we could add to this list. But the question is, where is this going in your application? Well, that's going to be up to you. We're asking you to tell us about service activities. I'm not saying tell me about your advocacy activity in any way, shape, or form. I'm asking you to describe, what what was this? And maybe you choose to describe it in a way that really, really catches someone's eye and say, wow, this person cares a lot about this thing and they are capable of doing, X, Y, and Z. That's up to you to be able to make your application stand out in that way. Last but not least, and this one speaks to character, honesty, integrity, and ethical and compassionate decision-making. These are going to stand out in your answers as well. So I think character is always the one that it shines through in almost everything that you're doing. And so, but we'll be looking for that. We're looking for, again, what are the decisions you made? Where did you decide to put your time and efforts, and how did you involve others? This one will stand out and shine through. So you have the opportunity to take any time, and this goes for your scholarship applications as well as any college applications you're putting out now. It's up to you to stand out here and make sure that people notice the extraordinary things you're doing. Someone's not always going to say, tell me how great of a leader you are. Let's be a little more subtle, right? Let's put that in and say, tell me how this activity impacted your community. You can show that you were a leader if you write it in a particular way. That's up to you, though, to prove that you have the chops. All right, I'm going to jump forward to the questions, and I am going to try to get through as many of your questions as I possibly can today. There's quite a few. Okay, someone asked about the advisor verification process. I went through that. Yesha asked about what happens at the DC event. So the DC event is actually really interesting. We bring together the top 25 finalists, and we get to do a whole slew of different things. There is a little bit of, there's a little bit of a tourism element. We make sure we take you out and show you around the town a little bit so you can see the monuments and everything. A lot of people are coming in that have never seen Washington, DC, so we make sure we give you time for that. But we also spend time kind of building a cohort of like-minded people who care a lot about the future and the future of education, the future of various topics, everything from the environment to the cost of college. And we bring these people together so that we can have those conversations. So for example, something we did last year was bring in a panel of former scholarship recipients who are at local colleges and universities, and they talked about what's it like to be a leader and how can you be a leader on a college campus? How do you get involved in a new community and make a difference there? On a different day, the Monday, we went to the Department of Education and we worked with school principals, and we were likely to meet with some school principals again this coming event. And we talked about the future of education and educational supports and how we can make some changes to the education system that might, help future students. And that's something that, we had Department of Education representatives sitting there and listening very intently to all that a lot of young people had to say. That's just a smattering of what the event's all about, but it's something really special. I think you would enjoy it. Are letters of recommendation required? We don't take any external letters of recommendation. All we take is the two forms that we mentioned, the advisor certification and the recommender does their form as well. It comes in a form that they have to fill out. We can't take any attachments or separate letters though. Do you have to know exactly what college you will attend? I mentioned no. Are awards distributed evenly by states? No, but we generally have winners representing most, if not all, states. It often depends on where we're getting our applicants from. And that can vary a lot year to year. Okay. Okay, it was never sent a link. Okay, well, I will put the link in the chat one more time later. Okay, someone said trying to apply and the advisor needs to verify you. Okay, you might have figured this one out by now, but you are probably in the circumstance. If your advisor says you verified you, but the profile says no, you need to click the gear button, you need to log out completely, and then you need to log back in on the profile. Also, if your advisor said they verified you, you should have received an email that says you've been verified and you now have access. If you did not receive that email, your advisor may not have verified you. If that is still a problem, feel free to email scholarship@nhs.us, which I'm going to pop that up in the background since we've only got a few more minutes. Okay, someone that said they moved a lot during high school. So how do you kind of mention, how that has an impact on your experiences. Well, you know what? Moving a lot is a story in of its own, right? You're on a journey for one reason or another, and your journey is your story. So I think you can find some creative ways. I would also recommend that if you're in a circumstance where you think that the experiences that you have on paper do not match up with, your passions or your abilities, talk to your school counselor as well. They might have some suggestions for how to craft a narrative that really captures who you are, even if it's not always apparent on paper. Someone asked, how many activities do you want to enter? What does that mean in the application? Okay, the application is broken into a few different sections where it says, how many advocacy and awareness activities do you want to answer? And you can put 0 to 4. There's another question that says how many fundraising or charitable donation activities do you want to enter, and you can do 0 to 4. So it's up to you to choose how many activities you want to enter within specific categories. Each one of those questions has a small description underneath it. Try to fit them in as accurately as you can, but if for some reason it's a little bit off, that's okay. Valencia, I love this question. Does the time you apply affect your chances of getting the NHS scholarship? I would think so. If you're doing a passing completion of the scholarship, I mean, I guess it might depend on how good of a writer are you. How good are you at telling a story? You're not going to pass this like a multiple choice test, though. That's what I'll say. Okay, how do you get approved by your advisor? We talked about that a good bit. I'm going to skip that one. Will your GPA from last semester be entered on the application, or would you use our current GPA from the end of this semester? I would say whatever GPA your school is reporting as the most current, and that's probably what you'd be putting on your college applications. That's the one you can be using. Chances higher if you're an NHS officer? Not necessarily, though it helps. I think it helps because you have experience with what NHS is all about. I think sometimes someone that has been in a president role, vice president role, secretary role, treasurer role, they might have just been more involved in doing more things with the chapter. So they understand what NHS is all about a little bit more. If you're someone that maybe you just joined NHS recently, doesn't mean you're not going to win the scholarship though. There might be other leadership roles that you had in other organizations that were more important to you as an individual, and that's okay too. You're going to have a chance to explain what those are. Can the principal look you up instead of your advisor? The principals can look you up and see that you have an account as well. Generally, the principals aren't going to be the ones that want to have to do that though. The email address for troubleshooting is up. If someone asked about that, that is up on the screen right now. So I'm going to say done with that. I'm going to zoom down to see if we can get just a couple more questions and then we'll end. Terrence asked how we can access the recording. I'm going to send it. You're going to get an email tomorrow about 24 hours from now. How do you know if you've been verified by your advisor? You would get an email confirmation, but you can also log in at nhs.us, click on the My Account button, and you will see a status that says you're an NHS verified student. Otherwise, it will just say NHS student and you won't be verified yet. Do you have to pay a fee, Rochelle? I mean, you have to be a member. So that's a complicated question. There is a fee to be affiliated with the National Honor Society in general. Every single chapter that is operating must pay that affiliation fee to our organization, NASSP. You can actually not operate a chapter without doing so. So yes, you must be an active chapter in order to have your students access the NHS scholarship. Okay, average number of applicants, it's anywhere from, I think, maybe 8,000 completed applications last year, but there's one year where it's probably closer to 15. So it varies quite a bit. How significant is it that your NHS chapter is new? That's okay. You've got a chapter, that's what matters. For weighted or unweighted GPA, we ask you to use your unweighted GPA, and there's a calculation tool available in the application itself. If you're graduating early as a senior, just put the graduation date when you are graduating. As long as you're graduating during this current academic year, no problem. Okay, I feel like most of the other questions are a bit duplicative, so we're gonna call it here because we've already passed our hour mark. If you have any more questions, I'm not gonna go back and review anything that I haven't missed, but send them to me at scholarship@nhs.us, and I promise I will answer them as quickly as I can. I appreciate you all for being here today. My voice is getting a little bit hoarse and I need a glass of water, so I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all. I look forward to seeing you all apply. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you all. And I hope some of you are the winners. Talk to you soon.